Have you ever looked at your life and quietly wondered why it feels emptier than everyone else's? Why your phone stays silent while others are surrounded by constant messages, laughter, invitations, noise? Have you ever felt that subtle weight in your chest that maybe something is wrong with you? That maybe you are missing something essential that everyone else seems to have so easily? And what if the thing you think is your weakness is actually your strength? Because here is something most people will never tell you. The world rewards noise, but it is built by those who understand silence. And if your life feels quieter, if your circle feels smaller, if your path feels more solitary, it does not automatically mean you are lacking. It might mean you are filtering. It might mean you are refining. It might mean you are becoming something most people never have the discipline to become. You see, loneliness hurts. It is real. It is heavy. It creeps in during quiet nights and makes you question your worth. It whispers that you are being left behind. And yes, that pain is valid. But here is the truth that changes everything. This is not weakness. This is strength. You are not like most people, and that is exactly why your path feels different. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that a person who is at peace with themselves is never truly alone, and yet most people spend their entire lives trying to escape themselves. They surround themselves with noise, distractions, shallow conversations, not because they enjoy it deeply, but because they are afraid of what silence might reveal. But you stayed. You sat in that silence. You felt it. You endured it. And without realizing it, you started building something rare. But here's what most people don't realize. Depth does not grow in crowded spaces. Think about it. Imagine trying to have a meaningful conversation in a room full of noise, gossip, and constant distraction. You speak, but no one really listens. You think, but no one really understands. And slowly, you begin to feel out of place, not because you are wrong, but because you are deeper than the environment you are in. Most people connect quickly because they do not require much. Their connections are built on convenience, entertainment, and surface-level agreement. But you crave something different. You crave truth. You crave loyalty. You crave conversations that don't just pass time, but transform it. And that is why you feel different. That's why you feel alone. And this is where everything changes. Because that feeling of not fitting in is not rejection. It is alignment. It is your mind quietly refusing to settle for what does not match your depth. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And if your thoughts are deep, reflective, and intentional, then shallow environments will never feel like home. You are not failing to connect. You are refusing to dilute yourself. If this resonates, comment 1. Now think about this. Why are so many people afraid to be alone? It's not because being alone is painful by itself. It's because being alone forces them to confront themselves. No distractions, no external validation, no noise to hide behind, just them and their thoughts. And for many people, that is unbearable. But you endured it, you faced the silence, you sat with your own mind, you questioned yourself, you battled your own thoughts, and slowly you became more aware, more grounded, more real. That is something most people will avoid their entire lives. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, the path of growth rarely looks impressive from the outside. It often looks lonely. It often looks misunderstood, and it often feels like you are walking alone. But here's what most people don't realize. Solitude is not isolation, it is training. Imagine two people. One cannot sit alone without reaching for their phone, without needing someone to talk to, without needing constant stimulation. The other can sit in silence, breathe, think, reflect, and feel complete. Which one is stronger? Silence is not emptiness. It is control. And every moment you spend alone without breaking, you are building that control. You are anchoring your peace internally, instead of depending on the world to provide it. And this is where everything changes. Because once your peace comes from within, no one can take it away. But here's another truth most people ignore. Not all connections are meant to stay. Think about your past. The people who left, the friendships that faded, the conversations that slowly disappeared. At the time, it probably felt like loss, like something valuable was taken from you. But what if those endings were not losses, but filters? Seneca once said, "Associate with people who will make a better man of you." And that means something very simple. Not everyone deserves access to your life. Most people collect connections like numbers, more friends, more followers, more interactions, but very few stop to ask, are these connections adding anything real to my life, or are they just filling space? You are not collecting, you are selecting, and that is why your circle is small. Because you are not interested in quantity, you are focused on quality. You are not looking for people to pass time with, You are looking for people who understand time, who respect it, who value it. Imagine sitting at a table with 20 people laughing loudly, talking endlessly, but none of it means anything. Now imagine sitting with one person where silence feels comfortable, where every word matters, where you feel seen without having to explain yourself. Most people choose the crowd, but you are waiting for that one, and that's why you feel different. If you feel this, comment 1. But here's something even deeper. The right people do not appear on demand. This is where most people get frustrated. They expect meaningful connections to appear instantly. They expect to meet the right people at the right time without becoming the right person first. But life doesn't work that way. Nature teaches this clearly. Nothing meaningful grows instantly. Not strength, not wisdom, not character, and definitely not deep relationships. The Stoics understood this. They knew you cannot control who enters your life. You cannot force someone to understand you. You cannot make someone value you, but you can control one thing: who you become. And this is where everything changes. Because when you focus on becoming someone of depth, of clarity, of integrity, you naturally begin to attract people who operate on that same level. But it takes time, and during that time, it feels like loneliness. But it is not emptiness. It is preparation. Think about this. If you constantly lower yourself just to fit in, just to feel accepted, just to avoid being alone, then the people who would truly value you will never recognize you, because you are not showing them who you really are. But when you stand alone, when you refuse to compromise your values, when you stay true to your depth even when it isolates you, you create a signal, a quiet but powerful signal, and the right people will eventually recognize it, not immediately, but inevitably. And this is where everything shifts, because you stop chasing connections and you start attracting alignment. Now let's go even deeper. Because the lack of friends is not just about other people, it is about your standards. Most people are afraid to admit this, but they tolerate connections that drain them, conversations that feel empty, relationships that lack respect, just to avoid being alone. But you walked away, and that takes strength, because walking away means choosing uncertainty over comfort. It means choosing silence over noise. It means choosing yourself even when it feels harder, and that's why you feel different. Because you are operating on a different level of awareness. You understand something most people ignore. Being surrounded does not mean being fulfilled. You can be in a room full of people and still feel alone, and you can be completely alone and feel at peace. That difference is everything. And this is where everything changes. Because once you understand this, you stop measuring your life by how many people are around you, and you start measuring it by how aligned you feel within yourself. Now think about this. Some of the greatest minds in history embraced solitude, not because they had no choice, but because they understood its power. Silence gave them clarity, space gave them perspective, distance gave them truth, and you are walking that same path. Whether you realize it or not, that quiet you feel is not empty. It is space. Space to think, space to grow, space to become, and most people never give themselves that space because they are too busy trying to avoid themselves. But you didn't run. You stayed, and that is rare. You are not broken. You are refining. You are not behind. You are building. You are not alone in the way you think. You are simply ahead of the noise, and that is your power. Because one day, the right people will come into your life, not to complete you, but to meet you where you already are. Not to fill a void, but to share a fullness. They will not ask you to shrink. They will not require you to pretend. They will not make you question your worth. They will recognize you because they are like you, and those connections will not be many, but they will be real, and they will be enough. So the next time you feel that quiet, that emptiness, that question creeping into your mind, remember this: you are not being left behind. You are being set apart. You are not losing people. You are losing what does not align. You are not alone. You are selective, and that is strength. Because it takes courage to walk alone. It takes discipline to wait. It takes clarity to choose depth over distraction. And it takes power to be at peace with yourself in a world that constantly tells you to seek validation outside. You are rare. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to understand, to see clearly, to choose wisely, to live intentionally, and that is why your path feels different. So keep walking it, even if it feels quiet, even if it feels slow, even if it feels lonely at times, because what you are building cannot be rushed, and when it finally comes together, it will make sense in a way most people will never experience. You are not alone. You are different, and that is your power. Subscribe if you want more. Like this if it helped you. Comment 1 if you choose strength.